So here we go again. I'm making another video about my new scooter. This is going to be part 3, I think. Now, this is the one I've been complaining about that lacks power. While it's quite a cheap motor, I've probably got good value for money. I complained before that it doesn't comply with what it says in the ads, which made me buy it. But anyway, I'm stuck with it. I actually complained to the sellers of this thing, and in the end they kind of said, tell you what, yeah, we maybe realise that it's not like we advertised it as. We'll give you $100 back, how's that? To shut me up, basically, so that I didn't sort of complain too much to many people, especially to eBay. So yeah, I said okay. So it ended up costing me $570 with the $100 off. So yeah, no, that's not bad. But I've been looking up ways of perhaps kind of increasing power on this. I've looked up a few YouTube sites and things, and yeah, I thought of doing something. That's the thing, in case you want to see all of it. I hadn't shown this. One of the other problems with this was this very cheap display unit, the LCD. I've shown you in some previous videos that it doesn't register the correct speed or the odometer or the voltage. I don't know what you can do about that. It's not one of those things that you can adjust. It's got no buttons that you can push. The calibration's all wrong. It probably depends on what the computer sends out to it, the controller. But anyway, I'll show you what I'm going to do. Okay, I'm going to do a bit of tweaking to see if things improve a bit power-wise. Now this is the controller that comes with the unit. I've just pulled it out. It's a fairly small one. It's a 6 FET, 48 volt, 17 amp hour controller, and yeah, someone suggested I get a bigger controller, and I actually did that. I went and bought this great big thing. There it is there. It's a 12 FET controller that handles quite a bit more current than the 31 amp one. But when I looked at the website, the eBay site, it had dimensions on it, and I thought the dimensions were from the end of the bracket there to the end of the bracket on the back, which I've since pulled off. There it is there. I thought the dimensions were from there to there, which would have just fitted inside the scooter housing. But then when I got it, the dimensions that I thought would fit in the scooter housing were actually the dimensions between, not the brackets, the end of the brackets, but the end of the actual box itself. So with the brackets added, no way was it going to fit inside. And even with just the size of the box, with the extra wires and that come with it, I couldn't get them to bend inside the box anyway. Not enough room. Besides, who knows what that would have done to the motor. The hub motor itself probably couldn't have handled the power for this. Anyway, it was cheap enough. I'm surprised how cheap these things are. Fairly complicated things. You can see I've pulled it apart and had a look inside it. Anyway, it gave me a bit of a lead into what to do with the other one. Anyway, what I'll do is I'll pull this apart, undo a few screws there, a few screws there which hold the heat sink, and we'll have a look inside. There we go, all the screws are taken out, and I can pull it apart. That's the inside of the beast. There it is. Okay. There's your 6 FETs. Got a fairly chunky capacitor in it. 63 volt, fairly standard. It seems most of the capacitors you see in these are 63 volt. Anyway, what I discovered, the simplest way to kind of boost the available power in these is to do something with this little fella here. This is the shunt. This is actually what controls the amperage that goes into the motor. Now, if you add another wire to that, you increase the amperage. So I've seen a few guys on YouTube doing this, and they check underneath the board there and they check where the shunt connects to. Oh, you've got to be a bit careful with the conductive grease that's on that. Don't make too much of a mess. Anyway, the shunt connections are there and there. So if I jump that with another piece of wire, it'll increase the amperage output. So I'm going to try that. Just there. I got a little strip of copper. It was a piece of copper wire, solid copper wire, that I flattened a little bit. There it is there. Hope you can see it okay. And I soldered it between the two contacts of the shunt that's on the other side of the board. Okay, I did that. Put it all back together again. As soon as I took the scooter for a ride out on the road, I tested, sorry, before I say that, I tested it out here in the shed with no load. Yeah, it worked fine. I took it out into the street, jumped on it, started it up. Within about 5 meters, it stopped. It overloaded the controller. That was with that piece there shorting the shunt. It increased the amount of current that went through there enormously. So, didn't work, overloaded the controller. Okay, so, came back in, pulled everything to bits again, and I tried the next thing. So the next thing was I tried that little bit of wire, putting that between the two contacts of the shunt in there. There you go. It was like that thin piece of wire there, soldered between the two shunt contacts. Now that's not, you wouldn't think there'd be too much current flowing through that. Anyway, took it out the street. I loaded it up. I loaded everything up again, of course. Put it all back together. Took it out in the street and ran it on a flat road. And it travelled. I must have gone for probably a few 100 meters. And it worked fine. I thought, terrific. It had quite a bit of power. Oh, I'm surprised. In fact, just taking off was, I had to watch it. It was a bit hard to control. I didn't get to see what the first one was like because as soon as I sort of started that and jumped on it, it stopped. So that overloaded immediately. This one went for a few 100 meters. And then I turned around to come back home and kabang. She overloaded again, stopped. So I had to walk back home. And of course, the way to kind of start it up again is to pull the board off the top of it, undo the battery, and then connect it up again, and it resets everything. It doesn't have a reset switch. But anyway, that was the second one that I did. Still no good, overloaded. This must be so precisely calibrated that I can't improve the amperage loading at all. So I thought, oh well, I'll try something thinner. And what I did was I peeled off a strand off a cable. Got this really thin strand. I don't know that the... Oh yeah, there we go. The camera's focusing on it. Thought, I'll try that. I can hardly imagine that would make any difference, but we'll give it a go. Alright, so, okay, put a dab of solder on there, and there, and see how we go. Get rid of that bit. See how we go at soldering this in between the shunt connections. There we go. Very, very thin, fine piece of wire. Just since the others didn't work, I thought I'll try this one. There we go. She's done. Okay. Can you see it? That little thin piece of wire that I've stuck in there might add another amp to the current flow through that shunt. Okay, time to assemble things and to try it out after my previous 2 unsuccessful attempts. I'm in the park here at the moment to try the little mod that I did on the scooter. You've probably seen in my previous videos I've complained about the lack of power on these, no torque. Quite a cheap scooter, but the ads sort of claimed it did things that it doesn't really do, as I've explained earlier. But I tweaked the controller, as you've seen previously, and I'm here to try it out. Now previously, there's a road here in this park. Now this road here goes uphill, probably at a 5-10 degree slope. Now before this tweak, it would climb up this hill, it would go up, it would ride it, but very, very slowly, and anything more than this it would die. If you got up to say 15 degree slopes, it wouldn't cope with that at all, despite the fact that the ad when I bought this thing showed that it could climb a 25 degree slope, but it doesn't. But now with this tweak, I'm about to try something just to see how it performs on the same slope that's gone very, very slowly before. Turn him on, and away we go. So far so good. Now this is a slope that I could hardly get up. Now with this little tweak, it climbs it quite nicely. Oh look, I'm quite impressed with that. Nice. It would only just crawl up here before. Now it's the end of that slope. I'm back onto the flat ground here again now, so what I'll do is I'll go back down for a minute, and there's no point filming while I'm going down because it always went downhill well anyway. Okay, I'll just stop here, turn the camera off. There's another more aggressive slope that I'm going to try in a minute, so I'll film that. Now this is the other slope that I'm going to test it out on. This is, yeah, a good 10, 12 degrees I would estimate, and I've ridden up here on the scooter before I did the little tweak, and it goes up here a little bit slowly, but it does cope with this. What I'm going to do is try it again. Now there's a cyclist going up. He's going up quite well, better than the electric scooter does, and he's got no motor on that, so it just goes to show that how weak the scooter was. But anyway, I'm going to now turn off, put the camera back on to myself, and have a go at this slope, see how it copes with it. Okay, And I'm starting on the slope and it's accelerating. How terrific. Oh, I wasn't going up like this before. Okay, the slope gets a bit steeper here. Going around the bend, still coping quite well. Oh yes, look, this is so much better. Gee, if the scooter had gone like this when I first got it, I wouldn't have been complaining. Ah, it's quite good. I mean, for such a cheap scooter, you know, when you consider it's a lithium battery scooter, it's got a hub motor, 500 watt, 48 volt. We're a bit steeper here. She's slowing down a little bit, but still a lot better than it was before I mucked around with the controller.